So we're going to talk about preventive lifeguarding. So the big thing about preventive lifeguarding is what we always talk about is when we take our NLS and become a lifeguard, all our pools have rules. And we have these rules to be preventive. We need to enforce them to make sure people are safe. So like no diving in the shallow end, um, no running on deck. You got to have a clean, cleansing shower before you get in. That everybody does, right? So, but what I'm more thinking about is the behaviors that are risky that we can recognize as a lifeguard and prevent somebody from getting injured or hurt. So some of these rules that we're just talking about, like I talked about running on the deck, we talked about like the no diving. Some pools have a swim test before you're allowed to enter the deep end, which means that you check the patron's swimming ability to make sure that they can swim well enough to be in the deep end. Some pools will have under the age of 8, they must be within a parent's arm's reach. And depending on the pool, they might have a swim test for that child. And some pools just tell you have to be within arm's reach of your kid if he's under 8. All right, so we're talking about preventive lifeguarding. So there's some behaviors, key behaviors we've got to be able to recognize as a lifeguard that shows that we could be the patron might be leading themselves into trouble, but they're not there yet. So the big one is like we always talk about is the gutter grabber. We all know that kid, and it can be also adults. You notice that they stay close to the edge. They got the kids that go hand over hand. They always have one hand on the deck, and they always have their uh, nose and eyes peeking over the deck to make sure that their face doesn't go underneath the water. They also look like this. This is a nice close up of a person of a girl. She's holding onto the deck. She's upright. She's having fun at her young age that she wouldn't understand if she was in trouble if she let go. So we got to be aware of those kind of people. So if you see somebody gutter grabbing or grabbing along the edge of the deck hand over hand and they never leave the edge, it's probably because they're not a very good swimmer or not a swimmer at all. So we're going to have to go over and investigate and get them to shallow water where they'll be safer. Recognizing dangerous behaviors, and again, that's what we're talking about, like the gutter grabbing. We got the kid in the tube. They're the ones that are floating around. They can get into the deep water, or just even maybe not be deep water for us, but deep water for them. They end up over their head. And if the tube goes up, flips over, and all of a sudden now you have a active drowning victim or distressed swimmer. So a lot of times with these tubes, these kids get over, and some of them will even jump off it, thinking they're just going to make it to the edge because they can't. They're not floating close enough to the edge, so they'll actually make that effort to make that jump to the edge. Another recognizing dangerous behaviors is like we are talking about before, is sometimes we need to control. How can we control some of these behaviors? If we have young children or people who can't swim, our facility could always offer them like a life jacket. So they put on a life jacket on, even if they end up in the deep water, and maybe they're not even allowed to be in the deep water with a life jacket. But if they do, they end up there, they're safe. And it's easy for us as lifeguards to come in and get that person out of the water. Again, recognizing dangerous behaviors. I see this. This you're in trouble. And I know people are thinking this is a backyard pool. This doesn't happen in aquatic facilities, but this happens a lot in aquatic facilities where the kids get away from the parents. I've had kids come out the bathroom door, change room door way before the parent does. They come up, they get all excited. And if I see this happening, I got to start moving over to that edge of the pool. Now, even though one's got a floaty toy, it's not a life jacket. So again, that's a dangerous behavior you're seeing leading up to either becoming a distressed swimmer or a more likely probably a drowning victim here. So when we see these kids come out of the change room and they don't have parents following in tow and there's nobody close to them, you need to start moving that way. Again, another dangerous behavior I mentioned earlier before just represents that we got those kids that they'll jump from corner to corner in the pool. And the reason they do that is because they can't swim or they're extremely weak swimmers, and they're doing that because they want to play in the water, they want to jump back and forth. But what happens is when you're jumping from corner to corner like that, you risk the chance of striking your head, your front, losing teeth, kind of thing, and creating an injury. So if you see people starting to do that or getting ready to do that, you need to go over and let them know that that's a dangerous behavior. One thing about when we do enforce rules, and that we want to be very customer service orientated. We want to try to make sure that the patron actually understands why you're asking them to not to do something than just saying you can't do that. They can explain to the parents if they think it's safe. You can explain to the parent. Well, a lot of times we have people that do jump across here, and when if they do miss, they end up hitting their face. They'll hit their teeth, and no parent wants to pay for a bunch of dental work on a kid, and that kind of thing. So make sure we also inform them why we have the rule and why you need them to quit, so they understand it's more for their benefit